Well,
here we are.
Oh, I just dropped my.
That's okay.
All right, so here we are on this momentous occasion, and it's really nice that you came.
Very nice.
And
nice
you
surprise.
knew what the reaction was going to be.
And I didn't want to get that on video.
I can
And it
imagine.
was exactly what everyone thought.
I didn't
And
know-
Noah's getting.
I didn't know either of them were coming.
And Noah and Gary are looking like way. You all are looking great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look
When
at
did you
how
get
much weight Gary is.
I know. Everyone looks
Gary,
great.
and just keep it. You've worked so hard, so now you just
I'm not
keep it.
messing up like I did last
No,
time.
I mean,
I've been working too hard.
and you feel and you feel really good, right?
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna get some pictures of all
But
these
I
people
feel
in
better
here.
knowing that I'm not
No,
like.
well, wait, why? No, see?
I'm gonna get some pictures of this as they argue. I'm gonna get some pictures here.
Yeah, I mean.
Can I have your attention, please, everyone? You. Can everyone hear me back there?
I don't think so, Ryan.
Can you hear me back there? Everyone? Well, at any rate, we're going to serve drinks. We can't serve until 11 o'clock. So you may have a mimosa, a pearl,
Oh.
Can I have all your attention, please? Can you folks in the back here, can you hear that loudspeaker? Okay.
That's so good. That's a very important word.
Back there? Okay, good.
I can hear up here.
Drop the beat.
I'd like to welcome everybody here. At first I thought when you came in I was going to have to explain why we were here, but obviously you all knew ahead of time. We were trying to keep it a little quiet and low key, but you know why we're here. We're here to celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary, married on September 30th. What I'm going to do first now, I'm just going to introduce the people at the head table so you know who they are. Beginning down at the end is my son Barry. My oldest son, and next to him is Giovanna, my daughter-in-law from Florida. My youngest son Gary, you all know. Down at the end there is Nancy, my only daughter. And we have Noah, who's Gary's son. And right over here,
I'm a supporter
We
of
have-
the Crucius.
only two people that were at our wedding. Jack and Harry Mars, our friends. 61, 62 years now. So what I'm going to try and do now, it's a little difficult, I'm going to see if I can speak about 20 minutes and see if I can condense 60 years of a marriage from a male point of view and what the husband is. Try to put that into 20 minutes time, so we'll see how it works out. I first met Arlene in 1954. I was going to podiatry school. We had an affair every year, a big formal affair called the podiatry So at this formal affair, I happened to be the master of ceremonies for the affair. And I had come there, I brought a date who was a student nurse from Temple University. Arlene had come with another younger classmate, a friend of mine. And during the time that I was walking around as a master of ceremonies, I kept on noticing this really cute girl. Very pretty. And she was very, very lively. She was really upbeat, and fabulous dancer. So during a period of time, I noticed her, but then the affair ended, and as it turned out, I had to take my date back to get her into the dormitory by 11 o'clock. Arlene's date had to go to Brooklyn, New York to work the next day. He had to get back in the car and drive home. So following that affair, we had a big party at our apartment. Myself and my three roommates were all the officers of a fraternity, and we had the biggest party house in that school. So we had a monster 30 by 30 room, and we we actually made a living by doing parties for the fraternity. We charge everybody $5 to $7 a head, pack as many people in, serve them liquor, serve them food, and pocket the profits. So it was a good deal. So we had a party that night back at our apartment, and there must have been 75, 80 people there. The only two people that were there that were loose ends were Arlene and myself, because our dates had gone home. So sometime during the party, we met, started talking in the hall, and a very strange thing started happening to me. I don't know how to describe it. If you remember from the movie The Godfather, they sent Michael Corleone, after he had killed two people, they sent him to Sicily to be bodyguarded and to make sure he didn't get killed himself. And he was in Sicily for 2 years. During that period of time, he was taking a walk with his bodyguards down a country road, and they met this group of people. There were several young kids and some older women, and then Michael spots this one woman, one young lady, Apollonia, who became his first bride. And when you see the look on Michael's face when he saw her, it's amazing. He looks like he was hit with a sledgehammer. So one of his bodyguards says to him, "I think you just got hit by the thunderbolt." At first sight. And that was what the Italians actually called her, you know. And that's exactly what happened to me that night. You know, it was really just amazing. So two people got together, and we've been living together for 60 years. Well, it's kind of interesting because we are totally opposite people. There never was a couple that was more unlike than us. Arlene makes decisions. All her decisions are made with the heart. All my decisions are made with the mind. She's a soft and cuddly personality, you know, very friendly. And I'm a little bit more standoffish. Arlene is a Pollyanna. You can't do anything wrong. If you do something wrong, she'll forgive you. She'll find a reason to say why you did it. I'm a little bit more judgmental, you know. And she's very emotional, and I have a tendency to be very analytical. So we do things in a completely different manner. All my life I've been an athlete. I've played ball and done everything on the outside, you know, racquetball, handball, baseball, football, golf, tennis, whatever it was. And Arlene would just like to sit at home and cuddle up with a good book. She has a human being. They're entitled to their thoughts. You have to respect their opinions. And if you do that, even though you differ in what you think, you'll get along as long as you respect each other. And we've always done that. There were some likenesses, you know, which were good things for us. It was important to remember that we came from families which were kind of similar. Both of our fathers were born in Russia, and we were first generation Americans, you know. I think we need to recognize that we had very, very little. We weren't terribly poor, but we had a meager life, and we learned, the most important thing is, early in life, we learned to get along with what we had. Whatever we had was good enough for us. And we also had a very, very strong desire to see if we could improve our position in life and attain a status in life which was better than our parents, better than our grandparents. So that's an important thing. You know, you strive to get ahead, but you realize that you can be happy with what you have, and that's what we've always done during our livelihood, our lifetime. This period of time, we met in 1954. We spent about a year dating, you know, very seriously, and sometime after that, as we got into the spring of 1956, we became engaged. I graduated from podiatry school in June 1956, and we realized I was going to be going away soon. I did an internship in Chicago, which took me there from June 1956 until the end of the next year. So before I went away, we became engaged. And I left for that internship in Chicago. Our wedding was September the 30th, as you can see, 1956. We came home at that time and were married, and we did a quick vacation, a quick honeymoon down Miami Beach, and packed up, went home, and packed the car and took off for Chicago, and I moved home. We stayed in Chicago until June 1957. We lived through one of the worst winters I've ever seen in my entire life. freezing cold. And I'll tell you later about another winter. But it was miserable. We couldn't wait to get out of it. So we got home in June 1957, and I started to practice in Hillside, New Jersey, and started to earn a living. Sometime along there, in March the 13th, 1958, son Barry was born. He was the first one. And then later on, going on until 1960, Nancy was born on December the 6th, 1960. And that was probably, that time, was the most momentous time in our entire life. Completely changed our entire life. 1960, the winter of 1960, up to that time, was one of the worst, the absolutely worst winters in the history of the Northeast. Nancy came home on December the 11th. We got her out of the hospital, just started a blizzard. It snowed 21 inches that day, and we just about barely got her home. But that blizzard was the most important thing, I think, in our entire life, because after that, it snowed days and days on end. It didn't seem like that winter. It never stopped snowing. It was cold. That winter, I missed 14 days of work. Now, 14 days of work, you're trying to support a family, and you're sitting at home and saying, well, how can I support a family? I can't even get to my office. When I get to my office, my patients can't get there. So at that period of time, we said, you know, we're kind of fed up with that. We've got to do something about this. We always figured we wanted to be someplace warm anyway. I had good reports from friends of mine that were down here, classmates, and told me how wonderful it was to practice in Florida. So we made up our mind and made this momentous decision to move to the state of Florida. And it was hard. It was very, very hard. We come from large families. Arlene's family has 9 aunts and uncles with their relatives. My family has 11 aunts and uncles with their spouses, excuse me. And God knows how many cousins, we couldn't count them all. So we had a very, very close family life. Our family was our friends. And to leave was difficult. But we decided we were going to do it anyway. So we moved far, far away. In the spring of 1961, I sent Arlene to Philadelphia with the kids because I was going to have to study for the state board exam. And I was running a practice and I had to study. And with 2 little kids at home, that was impossible. So she took the kids to Philadelphia and I stayed back in New Jersey and studied. I took the state board in June of 1961 and I found out I passed in July of that year. Well, from this period of time on, it seemed like everything that we did was really, really starstruck. We got very, very lucky. Everything just seemed to work out right. It was very difficult at that time to get a Florida board. And in fact, when I took the exam, 7 people out of 49 passed that exam. You know, so just that was kind of a miracle in itself, just to be able to pass the board exam. So we decided after passing the exam in July, what we were going to do is we were going to go down to Florida. So we got in the car, went down to Florida, Arlene and myself, and started to look for a location in Florida. And at that period of time, as I said, everything that happened right. I was on a main street in Lakeland, Florida, where I decided I was going to practice. And I saw a kind of a house that said it was for rent, you know, and it looked like a place that you could convert into an office. So I walked across the street, and there was a realtor with a large office there. And I said to him, I'd like to pay you for your opinion and hire you as a consultant to tell me what to do. Is this a good place to be, good place to practice? And he said, well, you know, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to set up a small office, you know, and I want to be in a nice street like this. It was the busiest street in town, and it was beautiful. And he said, well, look out the window. And I looked out the window and said, you see what's there? I said, yeah, there's an empty lot. He said, well, I own that lot, you know. And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll build you an office building. You tell me exactly what you want, and I'll build it exactly the way you want and rent it to you. Now, that never happens to anybody. Nobody starts a practice like that, you know. So here I was, sitting there, and somebody's going to build a brand new office building for me exactly the way I wanted. It was just a miracle. And We got arrangements made, we started to talk about plans and everything. By the time we got finished, we had a contract signed, and the most amazing thing, when I finished up, I found out that I was 1 week ahead of the phone book deadline for having your name put in the phone book. When you start a new practice as an individual, single individual, the most important thing is to get your name in the phone book. So at that period of time, if I waited another week, I would have missed it, but I made it right on time. It was just kind of a miracle. So we went back to Newark, New Jersey, where we were living, and then another miracle happened. It turned out, well, I figured, well, let me see if I can sell my practice, which isn't the easiest thing in the world. Turned out that there was a classmate of mine, lived in Trenton, New Jersey, and was anxious to get out of Trenton. I was going to leave New Jersey, so he said, I'll buy your practice, And there, within 3 weeks, I had sold my practice. Never happened. Brand new office where I'm going, sell your practice to a friend, which was just a wonderful thing. So it worked out absolutely fine. Well, we got the contract signed to the office, and in the middle of October, we packed up all of our belongings, and which were very little, and off we went to Florida in October. It's kind of interesting. I owned at that time a Renault Dauphine. I don't know if you remember the size of that car. It was
Air conditioning.
no air conditioning. It was about as big as a Volkswagen Bug, but a little bit smaller. And we packed the 2 kids at that time, Nancy and Barry. Barry sat in the front seat, helped me drive, and Nancy sat in the back. She was about 10 months old, and there we went down to Florida. It's kind of interesting because talk about luck and talk about having faith in what you're going to do. When we left, we packed up all of our belongings, whatever meager belongings we had, and my office equipment, and put it on a moving truck. And they said, well, where are we going to send this stuff? And I said, well, I really don't know. I don't know where we're going to live. So the guy said, well, if you don't know where you're going to live, and it comes down to Florida, we're going to be there in 9 days. In 9 days, you don't tell us where you live. It's going into the warehouse, and you'll have to pay to get it out later. So we said, okay, we'll find a place to live. And down we went to Florida. So we landed in the north side of Lakeland, and we found a small motel which had like little apartments. It was kind of family-style motel, north side of town. And I loaded my wife and my 2 kids, left them in the motel. No car. Fend for themselves, and off I went looking for a place to live. Well, as luck would have it, it just seemed like everything was just right, as I said. And in 2 days, I found a place to live. So the moving truck came down. When he came down, he loaded his stuff into the new place, and the stuff in the office, and it worked out actually fine. I practiced in Lakeland, for 35 years. I spent the first 15 years in 2 rental offices. We hired an associate in 1975, who eventually became my partner. I started a second practice in Sebring, 1976, 65 miles away from my original office, and we also built a new office in 1980. In 1983, I hired another associate who eventually became my partner. In 1986, I built another office building in Sebring. So at that time, we had 2 new office buildings and 2 new associates. In 1994, I hired another associate who eventually became a partner. So what we ended up with, after all these years in Lakeland, ended up with 2 offices, one in Sebring, one in Lakeland, both run full-time, 40 hours a week, with 4 doctors going back and forth. And we worked hard because it was difficult. I drove 13,000 miles a year, just driving back and forth 2 days a week, and just driving back and forth to the Sebring office. But it was worthwhile.
Oh, Daddy needs to put the...
One of the most important things that I wanted to mention is during all this period of time, one of the things about my offices and my practices, I owe a lot of thanks to a person who really helped me all during my life. life. When we started out, the office assistant that follows the doctor around, gets the patients in all the rooms, dismisses them, tells them what they have to do. That person has a lot of physical contact with patients. And